lecture coordinator. It's my responsibility to introduce the lecture tonight. And certainly Don doesn't need any introduction. He's a life member of the Radio Club and also prior president. So tonight he'll be covering Cape York Peninsula, and I'll let you introduce some of your guests. So over to you, Don.
Thank you very much, Brian. Thanks, ladies and gents, for coming up tonight. It's not that often I get to the club these days, so I really do enjoy coming here, believe it or not. And when the opportunity came up, I thought, oh, you guys missed the lecture last week. I'll bore you to tears for something I've got up my sleeve. So just to start off, I have got a few special guests here tonight. So Shane, give us a wave. Shane's an old schoolmate. And as many of you know, I can't drive anymore, so I've shanghaied Shane into coming on a four-wheel drive trip down the Vic High Country in May. So he's my driver. He's going, so what's this four-wheel drive stuff about? I said, well, you better come tonight and learn. So, and also we've got Greg and Angela. So Greg and Angela are very old friends of mine. We realised we started, this trip was done on the 34th anniversary of our first trip together. We've been doing them on and off forever. Like when we're back at uni, I think we used to tear around our Falcons and Holdens up and down Birdsville tracks and all sorts of places. So, yeah, we've been doing this sort of thing for a while. Well, those guys organised this trip, so I thought I better get them up here just to keep me honest. And Rob and Judy, who came on the trip as well. Hi, Judy. Where's Rob hiding? There's Rob down here in the front. So these guys live down the street from me, but it was great to get to know them and spend 3 fantastic weeks together. Touring around Cape York and everything that goes with it. So, yeah, let's kick off. It's not too long a thing. I think I ditched 99% of the photos just to keep it, you know, manageable tonight.
In 2 hours, isn't it?
Way less than that. Way less than that. Yeah, time is money, Greg.
I'm just wondering how much...
Yeah, okay, well, we'll speak... Let's see how this works. Rightio. We'll just talk about what we're up to. We ended up with 8 four-wheel drive vehicles going. That is 15 people. Now, given this is a ham radio club, the important bit is only one ham radio person. So, so we decided that we'd all get together and meet up there at Cooktown. That was going to be the official kickoff. That being said, some people went a week or 2 early. Some took their dog. Some took their wife. Susie and I sort of did the hotel tour via the East Coast all the way to Cairns. She was keen for me to do the trip and said she'd come along, but let's just say that Susie's best camping days are behind her. Hotels are the go. So I turfed her out at Cairns, and I then got to do the dirty stuff for a couple of weeks. So what have we got? My vehicle, the Land Cruiser, the 100 series, it's auto, petrol. My kids dubbed it the Beast, and that name seems to have stuck. So in my car, we had the HF radio, had the VHF and UHF. We also had a CB radio installed for the trip. I thought after 30 years, I better finally chuck one in the car. Now, some of the things that we all had different aims going up there. I think Angela, you said, we've got to get to the tip. It's all about getting the photo at the tip. So that's what it was for Angela. A quiet word to her husband, Greg, let's get on the telegraph trap and get the cars dirty. So that's what we were in it for. But, yeah, that being said, getting to the tip was part of it. The four-wheel driving, fantastic. The swimming holes up there, I've never seen anything so amazing as the swimming holes that we went to. So you all hear about the crocs. You've got to worry about the crocs. They're everywhere. They're going to eat you. They're estuarine animals. They're down in the rivers, down low. And yes, you've got to watch out for them. You've got to be mindful of it. And these swimming holes, they're up a long way from the coast. And they're no unsafe areas. They are the most beautiful things. You could loll around in them all day, and we did. It was really, really good. A trip out to Thursday Island, because we're there, you always hear about it. Why not? Pay the money, go over for a day, do the 3-pub run, do the little tour, and, you know, say hello at the church and the cemetery and come on back. That's what you do. Lots of camping, lots of relaxing in a very dirty, dignified way. is probably the best way of putting it. Rightio, so this was pretty much my trip. As most of you know, I work in Canberra, so we had to start from Canberra and get back to Sydney. Some of the guys coming on the trip were coming from Canberra as well. My boss's boss, my boss's boss's boss, and his wife, so that's my boss's 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 boss. They came along as well. So I was thinking, how am I going to get time off work? I've only been there a year and a half. I want to take a big chunk. I thought, oh, my boss loves four-wheel driving. I'll just invite him. Thinking, oh yeah, I'm too busy. No, oh, I'm coming along. Oh, God, got my boss. And then he goes, can I invite the big boss? And I went, who's he? And I remember Angela asked me at one point, she said, Dom, you've got your boss coming and your boss's boss coming. How do you feel about this? And jokingly, I sort of said, oh, look, Angela, I'm not too worried about it. I'll either get promoted or sacked. And it ends up being I'm promoted. So we're going to call that a win and we're going to move along. Oh, hello. Better take that one. Rightio, where? You reckon?
I thought you were very well done.
Rightio. So this just gives you an idea. That's really upside down. This isn't Canberra, Sydney, and then where do we go? Picked up Susie, grabbed the car too after Cairns, Daintree. So we just stopped at all these places along the way. For me and my wife, having the 1 week going up the coast, it was the most relaxing holiday start I've ever had. I drove out of French's Forest with a smile from ear to ear, and I'm doing 70 on Mona Vale Road, which is unheard of. And Susie's going, what's wrong? I said, I'm just so happy. And I said, I think we need to have a stop. So our first coffee stop was at St Ives. on your 10,000 kilometre sojourn, first coffee stop. It was. And so our day consisted, we didn't pre-book anything. I said, right, Suze, we're in the car, get the laptop out, find us a hotel. I don't want to know the price. So we just hotel hopped all the way up. We skipped going to the Rellos. We didn't go to Pano's place. I know, but we weren't doing the ham tour at this point. But we made our way, all the way up. Now, I'll probably get into it further down here. What have we got? This is right up the top end, okay? So we're right up, that's where we're aiming for, right up the top. And we came in here. There were a couple of detours.
Did you get to the rock offshore?
Tried not to. I got to the one called Thursday Island.
Right, you got the big rock.
Yep. You could say that. There's a number of big rocks up there, Greg. In a nutshell, we're coming up from the south here. This is a bit further into the trip. We will break down a few things here, but the proper old telegraph track starts here at the back of Bramwell Roadhouse and basically goes notionally a straight line, a bit more up and down and lots of river crossings. There is a thing they call a development road around the side. That's a bit of a odd term. It certainly is under development and it will never get there. In some ways, the telegraph track, which is the heavy-duty four-wheel drive track, on the level bits was a better road. Obviously, the creek crossings were spectacular, but the developmental road, the ruts on it are just diabolical. And I've been on some heavy rut roads before over the years when we've been out at Kings Canyon in the 80s and bits and pieces, and always found that with a road with lots of ruts, we're talking about the horizontal bumps across the road that come about from your suspension. There's always a speed that you can find where you sort of glide. It's more like driving a boat. In the old Falcon, it was at 140. The Land Cruiser's never seen 140, so that was never going to happen. There is no good speed. So it was just heavy going for a lot of that. Tyre pressures made a difference, of course. I'm not one for putting my tyres down. Greg's not one for putting his up. So somewhere we meet in the middle. He's always got a softer ride than me. I did drop mine to 35 and then to 28. And I found that was a pretty good going. From 42 is where I normally run on the highway. But yeah, it was pretty tough going. Let's see, what have we got? First stage. Canberra, Sydney, Ballina, Hervey Bay, we stayed over there, that was pretty good. Bundaberg, Rocky, Mackay, Proserpine, Bowen, Townsville, Mission Beach and then into Cairns. That was easy run, hotel trip. After dropping Suzanne at the airport, I was then driving solo until I got all the way back home. That was the plan there. Now, we ended up being Tuesday night in Townsville. Now, my wife had a little bit of a side gig and she said, look, I've got to be on a Zoom meeting. You go and get dinner. I'm going to put the earphones on and just do the meeting thing. So I'm left to my own devices. What does any self-respecting ham do? He goes down the Asian shop and orders 2 buckets of noodles, plays on his phone and goes, Ham Radio Townsville, meeting tonight at the, Townsville Amateur Radio Club. Made a phone call. Yeah, come on up, Dom. You beauty. Got back to the room, dumped the noodles. They're yours. See ya. Took off. And basically met the gang at the Townsville Amateur Radio Club. What a win that was. They just had... Including Og? Og? Og?
Oh, yeah.
Go on.
You would have met him there.
Oh.
Ex-overseas.
Oh, that's right. Well, it's probably another photo tip. Anyway, this is their shack room, and it was all pretty neat. It's a bit too sterile. I think I like ours better, but, it was nice all it was. And this is the gang. They were all doing a bit of training for F-calls and things like that. I haven't included all the photos, Tim. There's a limit, right?
Oh, the one with the beard and long hair.
Anyway, one of the great things about going to a local amateur radio club, one of the things was they said, do you know about the net? I said, which the net? So they run a Cape York Peninsula net every afternoon, 5 o'clock local time. So not all hams are into logging into nets and things, I understand that. And it's not always my thing, but when I'm in an area, like this, I thought it was a value. So every afternoon I'd tune up on the radio, have a chat to some of these guys, and that pretty much covered northern Queensland, particularly northeast Queensland, down to Rocky, definitely a couple down towards Brisbane, but mostly Cairns and thereabouts. That was on 40 metres, and you'll hear them about 7100 at 5 p.m. And I've talked to them from Canberra when I got back, so that was pretty cool. They thought that was good. It was a hard yakka from there, but it was doable. Why is she so happy? 1, she doesn't have to go and play in the dirt, and 2, she got business class. So, now I didn't know that till she was, no, I'm going through this gate, Dom. Oh, okay, righto, Dal. Yeah, I don't want to know. So,
Yourselves a business class or something?
but so look, we had a great time. I really appreciate my wife. She knew I wanted to go on this trip. She said, Dom, I'll come with you. I know you want to go, blah, blah, blah. And I knew it wasn't her thing, and it was quite a gift that she said that. So the compromise was, let's do the hotel tour to Cairns and you're out. And she goes, done. So that was an easy sell, that one. Now, as we started to get together, here's all the cars lined up, just at the first survey. Now, one thing to note, Greg had said, mate, bring your tools. We don't know what we're up against. We might have to do some work. So I've got 3 toolboxes in there, plus all the radio spares and blah, blah, blah. Scotty, you'll notice that the new shocks and springs, and I'm running standard height in the Land Cruiser, so I don't have it raised. So you see the big gap there and lesser gap there. So I did note the bum was down a bit, and we've since fixed that by putting in some 1-inch plates in the back just to raise it up 1 inch. So when it's loaded, it sits nice now. It's just perfect. I couldn't raise it. Well, I've chosen not to because my little wife would never be able to get in the car. So very simple equation, that one. But this is all the cars lined up at the first survey. Right, the squad. So, you probably see a few faces there that you recognise, but we're all in there together before we kick off. Now, look, I'm not going to get into every little nut and bolt here, but the point is we would come across just little bits and pieces like this and go, yep, we've got to swim in it, just dive in. It was just magnificent. It's middle of winter. It's what, 28 degrees? Something like that every day. It was just magic. Really, really good. Now, I was a bit perturbed by this, but after the 3rd snake, I started thinking about it. Oh, that's right. They don't really have winter up here. They don't hibernate. Unlike down south where they're all going to sleep. No, they're out and about. Didn't worry about it, but they're there. So you just be mindful. Don't tread on a stick because it might move. I think that stands for itself, doesn't it? One of the guys was standing a bit close. I saw him there and I went, "Gosh, you need to get wet." So he certainly was by the end of that. Now, a rare occasion of Dom letting the air down, down to my 28. And what did you go down to, Greg, for the telly track?
I was on 20.
20 most of the way, yeah. And just the varied landscape. I mean, there was just a little rise of dirt just off the side. We pulled 4 cars up there, and dead flat forever and ever. Just magnificent. So we're running the big Turlin whip for the HF there, and that is an 8 dBi gain CB antenna, sort of one of the mightiest that Benelec make. I've got another backup one there which did prime work, the 6.5 dB that folds down.
The one that fell off, Dom?
That's the one that got taken off because I was bringing branches down on the car. No, this one, this. I will talk about that. This HF one I did break twice. So we'll get into that at some point because the radio guys will want to know.
No NPI.
Now, lots of burning off. I wasn't expecting this. There is burning off happening up there all the time. And it can be quite perturbing driving through, kilometres of smoke and bush and you're not too sure what's going on. No big flame fronts, just a constant sort of thing going on. We ran into the rangers at one place and I mentioned this. They said, "Oh yeah, we lit that yesterday." I went, "Why?" And they said, "That's what we do. We're burning off all the time to keep it manageable." So it's just a trickle burn here and a trickle burn there and no big flame fronts, just keeping the background down because it all grows pretty well up there. So we didn't want to camp in it, but we were, going through it quite a bit. Smoke and corrugation, story of our lives. It's not really going to give you a proper feel for it. Cohen's a little stop on the way there. The Exchange Hotel, but I love the way they set it up. Cohen was quite something. A really great pub. The free camping by the river. What a magnificent camping spot. It's hard to think of a better spot. When I say the river area where we could swim, like 3 Olympic pool size, I think it's about right. We drive across the shallow bits and camp on the sand and set the tents up. Plenty of room. There's 1 or 2 dunnies up on the hill for those that way inclined, but it was just absolutely magnificent. Now, note all the bikes outside the pub here. We ran into these guys a few times. So one of those bucket list things is going to the tip. Angela, you've done it. Well done.
Thank you.
A lot of people like doing the motorbike ride. So, maybe the accountants working at Price Waterhouse go, "Oh, gee, what'll I do? I'll just ring and book. Oh, $6,000, no worries, see you next week." They fly to Cairns, they meet up with a crowd, 30 bikes, they've all got the names on it, and they've got a mechanic in a truck, and they've got someone leading the trip, telling them where to go. And boy, do they get dirty and boy, do they have fun. They break the bike, they chuck it on the truck and get another one off.
And they break their ribs.
And they break their ribs when they fall off. All that good stuff. But we ran into this crowd quite a bit on the way and they were having a blast. I mean, we're all doing it our own favourite way. Good luck to them. Really good. The pub was great. Interesting little town, like they all are. But highly recommend a visit. Now, where are we at? Like just some of the places. Do you remember the names of all the different ones? I don't. So what have we got? Elliott Falls, Fruit Bat Falls.
Elliott Falls or Lady Elliott Falls?
Elliott Falls. So remember this, the Croxer Estuarine, these things are well up away from the coast. So they don't like going up rocks too much. And these were just beautiful. You could run and jump in these. Some places they're 10 foot deep, some they're 4 foot, some they're 20 foot. So, and clear water and beautiful. And like sometimes we're in there for an hour, but often we're in there for half a day. It was really tough. I could go back tomorrow. Really beautiful. So, you know, just our crowd, just hanging out. It was just, you know, just tremendous. Right, the overland telegraph track. So, I take it a few people here know about the telegraph lines that came into Australia, and they came down, you know, from pretty much the point That was our one of our connections to the rest of the world. It took a fairly straight path, straight through the bush. They tried to build it and maintain the things. Trees would grow over, they'd have to trim them back, so they're navigating this skinny track all the time, crossing these rivers and that. It's now one of Australia's great four-wheel drive tracks. Typically done south to north, don't try and go the other way. You're going to run into too much traffic. It's a custom, but it's a real custom. Just keep heading north.
How do you get back?
As I said, there is a dodgy developmental road still under development and will be for the foreseeable future.
And that's the way back for everybody, isn't it?
Pretty much. So what we found, the track has got some very challenging spots, and there's usually what we call a chicken run around it, an easier way. Now, we found those a few times. You've got your own name for it, Greg and Angela, but I called it the geriatrics tour. We had a rule, no water over the bonnet, because not all our cars had snorkels. So we're being mindful. We actually wanted to drive our cars back, and we sure met a few people who were not going to be driving back. Their cars were staying in pieces. So there's a few gung-ho young ones out there who would have been hitching back. But so, look, some of these old poles, I don't know how long they've been there. When did this?
1886.
1886.
Yeah.
That's when they started putting this in. Some of that stuff's been there a long time. Yes, it's been maintained. It's not in use anymore, of course, with the modern day connections, but really quite something. At a lot of these stations along the way, at Cowan and Bramwell and a few other places, there's little displays being set up. When you look close, you find it's the Cairns Amateur Radio Club people and the Townsville people have set up these things. They've collected bits and they've got radio gear there, and that they've, out of the goodness of their heart, they've set up those things for all the tourists to see, and that was really good to see that contribution by the local hams up there. Right, so Bramwell Station, that was pretty much the start of that map that I had before, down the bottom, and we go south to north. Some people decided not to do any of the telly track, but you can go the long way around and then take side tracks in to come and watch the crazies do it. So a lot of people would go the long way and then come in. And so we get to a river crossing and find that we've got 20 spectators waiting for us to get stuck. Kids, mums, dads, dogs, the whole lot. So, you know, it was pretty funny when you got a whole lot of people there. Let's see. So that was the first entry point, and we looked at that and went, holy crap, what's Greg got us into? It's pretty much what everyone said in the group. Now, I don't know.
Is that your car in the back?
That is probably it looked like Craig's actually.
Can you drive around?
Yeah. So there is a chicken run for most of these. So that is the serious entry point to Palm Creek, and that's 3 kilometres into the track. And we saw this and went, oh my God. But Greg said, never fear, we'll find another way. And Greg went for a wander off and he came back half an hour later and said, got it. So great, we went up and had an investigate. And where are we? Yep.
There's a gunshot.
No, that's not gunshot. Oh, it is actually. This is later on, is it? Yes. I haven't got all the shots. I had to take out some photos, otherwise it'll be 2 hours long. So there are multiple ways around. We had an entry into the creek. We came across the creek for about 150 yards and then chuck a right and went out. Now, I had to go up and started sliding, so I had to back it up and get a good run and do it properly. And that's all fine. Angela and Greg were coming out and Angela's turn to drive. I should have hopped out of the way quicker because
Oh, that's rude.
like a horse out of a gate you were. You shot up there, Angela. It was fantastic to watch.
Launch at the top.
So, yes.
But get over a lot of obstacles.
I was very controlled, thank you.
You were. You did not roll it. No. No, we had a lot of fun. And it was really something to see when we came across these, what seemed like insurmountable things. And one is skill level and comfort level and all those things. And you look at it and you analyse it and you have a think about it and you talk it through. And then, you know what? You watch someone else go through on some of them and you go, yeah, nah, we're not going to do that. Or some others like, that's how they did it and that's what they scraped and that's what to look for. So the learning comes pretty quick and fast. Now, that first one that we saw before at Palm, that was very challenging for a lot of us. Sort of went, oh, I'm not so sure we want to do it. But we found another way, we got in, we got out again, and by the end of that first creek crossing, it's fair to say people were pumping the air going, yes, we can do this. So we'd all stepped up a little level there in confidence and ability, maybe a little too much, but that's okay. The rest of the trip brought it back to normal. But the point is, we had a lot of fun, learning. There's some people there who are, wide experience. Greg's got wide experience with Angelo driving in a lot of conditions. I've got some different experience, more taking standard cars through some pretty bad stuff. Some other guys have done lots of four-wheel driving. Some were quite new to it and had fairly new vehicles. So we really crossed the whole lot. We had one, Craig and his missus and his two kids, and fully laden in a little Pajero. And we went, how is it going to get there? But somehow we got it there all the way. So, he might have had a few tow ropes on and been tugged a few times, but that's all right. That's some of those snatch straps stayed attached to the cars permanently for the OTT part, Greg. So here we go. So this is Dom going into gunshot.
Don't stop the bottom.
What I found here, I didn't have a feel for which way my wheels were pointing. The car was still going down, but I didn't know if they were pointing left or right.
A lot steeper than it looks.
Oh God, it's good.
Shovel.
No, it was actually just the door, it wasn't the handle. But it did get staved in. But that's why you got a white car. You fix it with liquor paper.
Yeah, but your cars you don't know where the steering is anyway.
That's
So it
right.
just goes like
That's right. No, Greg can say that he owned one. So, we had a lot of fun. So there were 20 people lined up here, of which I only knew 10, cheering and hoping and praying that you get bogged. It's part of the deal up there. And I haven't got a shot of it here. On the odd tree, usually on the other side, there'd be for towing call. And it's going to cost you $10,000, but they will come and get you. So that's the ultimate backup plan. Right, the development road. So we took this on the way down. That sort of cut out to the east and got around the telly track. It's a big road. It's wide. Serious amounts of bull dust on it. So I found for me, it was good to travel as tail end Charlie because I had a lot of the tools and spares and bits and pieces. And so, as one would pull off occasionally, wait for me to come up, and I'd have spare nuts and bolts, and we'd get them back on the road and we'd keep going. So that was all right. I was staying about 3 kilometres behind our 7th car. Now, one of our guys is a city kid and he just cannot get it out of him. He was 10 metres behind the car in front. And we couldn't tell him. We could invite him to, it just couldn't be done. So,
Clean his air filter every night.
well, no, at the halfway point he said, can you help me with the air filter? And we took it out.
Solid.
Bang, bang, and lumps are coming out of this thing. I got back to Sydney. Now, I am running a snorkel, so it is up high. I took mine out to change it, and I got a new one, and I went, oh, I'm just going to put it back in. It was fine. There was little issue because I stayed behind. I let it settle. Doesn't mean I didn't get any, but it was not enough to worry about. So, dead cars by the wayside. Now, when you've got an old car, what do you think? Spares. So I'm looking for Land Cruisers. Didn't find one. I found Holden Commodores, Toyota Taragos, all...
How many Nissan Patrol?
None. No. The real cars, I didn't find any. It was all the ones that probably shouldn't have been going that hard along there. So I didn't get enough. So the corrugations, I said, was serious. I couldn't find a good speed. So 140 in the Falcon would have done it, but this thing ain't ever going to do that. So occasionally we'd travel on the outside bits where it's sand outside the posts. Now that's hard going because the car's fishing around all over the place and you're likely to get into the trees, all that, but occasionally I just needed a break. I just needed the noise to go away for a while and put my teeth back in my head, all that sort of thing. So you do a little bit along there. See if you can see what's going on here. You can see there's an oncoming vehicle, right, on the road. that gives you an idea what this is. Corrugations are going fairly slow, and then you got nothing. You got absolutely nothing. And right at the end, what often happens, another car out of nowhere. So if you're not holding your position on the road, got your lights on, playing it cool, you're going to end up in strife, right? So you just got to just mind what's going. Okay, what do we got? Up to the tip. There's some resorts up at the top. Is a resort a good word?
I would not have thought so.
Yeah, you wouldn't call it a resort? Okay, right. One of the places we stayed at, the bar had decent food, and it was nice that someone else got to cook for a change. So we call that a win. The pizzas were good, the coffee was passable. So that was a bit of a win. It was funny to see the little pool with the fence around it. The fence isn't to keep the kids out, it's to keep the crocs out, right? So you see these signs put up occasionally when they've had a croc in a particular area where there's tourists. Be mindful, it's the real deal. Rightio. So that money shot really is for that one. But
So did you sleep on the roof, right?
yeah, oh, I'll talk about that. So here we are, all of us up there together, pumping the air because that seems to be the thing to do. These are bits of Australia, but they're not connected, so they don't count, right? So this is the actual tip, as the sign says. But look, just down the road, was it Loyalty Beach, I think they call it, where the second place we camped up there? I got the end spot, and here I am, just whack the tent on the edge of the beach with the car there. It's just the most magic spot. Horses running around wild, getting into all your stuff, so you had to lock your food up because the horses will get into it. But other than that, really great fun spot. And they'd have, at the dinner place about 1 kilometre down the beach, they'd have a different menu every night. It was fish and chips one night or hamburgers the next night. That's all you got served. So if you're going to turn up, that's what you're getting. But it was good fun. Lots of fun. Up around the tip, some interesting things. We're up there for 4 or 5 days, I think. And some of us went for a bit of a tool around. There's a lot of World War II wrecks. I mean, lots of them. And so going around, they're well signposted. You can find them pretty easy. Don't have to walk far off the road. And they've done the effort of doing a bit of history, plaques and bits and pieces. And what's really good to see, because we're talking a low wire fence. People haven't knocked off too much stuff. You know, it's really good to see they've actually respected it. It's nice. So there's a lot of gear, lots of bits of engines, stuff everywhere. Okay, for the hams amongst us, the radio's set up. So the VHF UHF was the AC 7900. Useless ones I got north of Cairns, the VHF. There's just no one to talk to. There's no repeaters. Cairns is the last bit, right? So that's where at the last point I was really using that radio. Okay, so for my VHF UHF, the 1.5 metre SBB7 is my favourite antenna to use. Still got it on the car now. It's got a lot of gain. And you think the 1 metre ones versus the 1.5, what's the difference? Someone was telling me how good they are one day and I didn't believe him. He said, take mine for a week. And I used it. Wow, what a difference. The fill-in gain pattern is really quite something, particularly when travelling around Sydney, which is hilly and that. The cutouts are just so much less, so I've converted to that. You can see I've got a little rotational mount there, so if I'm really going to be hitting the big stuff, I can just turn that, drop it 9 degrees or whatever, and just leave it down and just pop it up for when I need it. Okay, what have we got here? Chook band. So I went and bought myself a little Uniden. The reason I got this one, purely because I like old school radios that have got separate knobs for separate functions. I do not like dinking around trying to work out what menu I'm in while driving on a road with corrugations, with trucks coming towards me. No, I just put my hand there, that's the volume, put my hand there, that's the channel. Yeah. I can do it on auto, so that's really good. So again, second UHF CB antenna in case I lost one, which I took down because it was bringing down too many trees. That was worth doing. Right, let's see. So the radio that I use for the HF, I've got a Kenwood TS480, the 200 watt version. I've always liked the Turlin Outbacker antennas. So that's the Perth mob who make those. I've had a couple over the years. And this is the long one. I find the long ones work a little better in the gain, but also they give you the bandwidth. So on 40 metres, I can easily get 100 kilohertz without having to retune. I can use the whole band, but the SWR is starting to curve up at the ends. So usually about 100k chunk is what I get without having to retune. Anything above that, I don't have to retune. I get the whole band from 30, 20 and up. So there's no particular problems there. Things that have improved the setup, I talked there because I've got an alloy bull bar. I didn't really twig at first about alloy. I think it's metal, it connects to the car, it's all connected. Alloy, from an RF point of view, touching steel is not a good scenario. So a separate earth strap to the car body made all the difference to this antenna setup. Let's see, there it is there. So this is the mount for the HF, and I soldered that on there and bought it, literally lifted a bolt, pushed it through. Nothing fancy about it. Wow, what a difference. And I've also added 2 earth straps just at the hinges so that the bonnet is really properly connected. I did have a little engine noise about S3. It's gone. I do not hear it at all now. That's probably not true. If you turn the engine off, you can probably not hear anything. You turn it on, you can hear something, but you can't get a level out of it. It's pretty low.
Except for the fuel pump.
That's a separate one that hasn't been sorted yet. Right, what have we got? Blah, blah, blah. Horst was back here in Sydney, so one of the many contacts. Good signals. We had, yeah, it's very clear out there. There's no interference, so it's just lovely, clear. I mean, chatting to a bunch of people here in this club back home while in cars. There are other people. Owen was out and about, so we chatted a few times. Bruce up in Toowoomba a couple of times. So just one of many, many contacts. I had a lot of fun with the radio. So when I wasn't hanging out with you guys, this is what I was doing for fun. Let's see. So problems that we had. So that HF antenna has got 2 fiberglass parts with a helical winding in them, and they screw together. The last bit is what we call the stinger, the tuning stainless steel part that's about 1200 millimetres long. I had one in the antenna and one spare in the car. So on the telegraph track, I lost one, and I put the spare in, lost that one in about half an hour. So I was suddenly off the air on HF.
Did that come out or did it snap off?
Gone.
Just not there.
Typically what I've found happens in these things, you get a little fork of a tree and the tip gets stuck in it, and as you go past it gives it a bit of lift. If that grub screw is not, you can't do it finger tight, it's got to be done up with the spanner, and even then it can pull straight past the collet, and I lost something like that. I've seen it happen before, but
Where's the grub screw?
I had spare grub screws and had a spare stinger, but was gone within a day. So suddenly I'm off HF. Now that was the thing I like to play with, and it was my backup if there's an emergency or something like that. So, boss's boss, he goes, oh, I got a bit of fencing wire. And I'm thinking, what are the chances a bit of fencing wire going to be the same diameter as what's going to go in there? He goes, here, try this. I grabbed it, looked at it and went, you've got to be kidding. I put it in, it's exactly the right diameter. It is, yeah, it is, what was it, 3/16. It was beautiful. It just fit right in the hole. Now, it's softer steel wire, it wasn't stainless, so I couldn't cut it the right length, all good, it worked. Couldn't use it driving, because as soon as you drove, it being soft, it would flip over and stay flipped over, right? So what I did, I used that for when we're stopped. I could put the antenna back on the car, and that was good. And while I was driving, I'd just not use it, take that bit off. So that got me back on the air. That being said, I've always got spares. I had, what have we got? I had a 40-metre dipole, 20-minute build job in the back, so I could hang that up from a tree. And I did at one point when we were at camp, just to give it a run. But I also...
Didn't you grab some welding rods?
Yeah, a bit... need to be long, 1,200 millimetres long, right? So you need to weld your welding rods.
Right.
So I contacted my wife and got her and the daughter to ferret through my shack, go and find my packet of spares. Yes, we found them. Right, I need them sent somewhere. So the guy in Cairns, Mick, who ran the net, I said, Mick, I got a problem. Can I get some spares sent from Sydney to you? He goes, yep, no worries. I turned up Mick's. I made my way back to Cairns on my way south. So got to meet him, and as a bonus, he had the spares there waiting for me. So I was, grabbed it, cut it, back on the air in 5 minutes, shook his hand, off we go. So yeah, that was always good. It's handy being able to bump into some friendly faces, even though you've never met them before but only talked on air. Now, that antenna, because it's multi-band, you've got a wander lead which you can plug into different points. And it's banana plugs, like high quality banana plugs. With that road, you saw the roads that we're on, like that. Eventually that would come out. The two plugs would come out. And then the thing is helically wound. I was watching it. It was snaking its way off the car. While I'm driving, it just left. And I was like, stop the car, go and get the wire. And I had a spare, of course. But the point is, I got that back on. Right, lucky band job to take the weight of it because of the vibration, and the weight of it would just pull it out again. So that was how we got that one through. So the rubber band repair. Right, other problems we had. The UHF CBs throughout the kit. If you buy a UHF CB antenna these days on the 5mm coax, RG58 or LL195 or something, it's a 5mm cable. They often put a 5mm connector on it so you can thread it through the body of the car, and then you put an adapter on that goes to your PL259, the large connector. Now that adapter, what I found with those, they only just touch when it's nipped up. It's got to be nipped up with spanners. Now if you don't do that, or even if you do it and it comes loose, it disconnects. And we had a couple of disconnects on the go, and we found that out by, we could hear people when we were close, but once we got a kilometre out, we couldn't hear them again. And I went, oh, I know what that is. So I get into the cars when we're stopped at campsite that night, do them up or give them a quick test. That was typically the problem with those. So we had plenty of spares. I had a manual tuner. I could have whacked a wire up a tree, didn't bother because I had better antennas. Spare UHF CB antennas. Took the antenna analyzer. Great for sweeping things, doing a quick check, knowing that the antenna systems are good. Multimeters, soldering irons, because I played radio tech support. Greg did most of the mechanical support. Oh yes, on the way home, I was travelling by myself at one point, coming down Development Road. There was a French couple, and they were doing the Tour of Australia thing before they went off to somewhere else. They're off the side of the road. I also recognised another car had stopped to help, and I'd recognised the guy from back up one of the stations we'd stayed, and I knew he was a pretty withered guy. I thought, yeah, I'm going to stop and see what's going on. There was enough hands. I said, what's going on? Oh, this is broken, this is broken. And finally, I let them nut it out. Finally, they went, we need more wire. We haven't got enough wire. And I went, I've got a spare antenna here. Have that. So, you know, the antenna wire got pressed into service in some very old Land Cruiser. Got them on the road again. So, you know, always good to have a few spares around. Let's see, what else have we got? So, radio-wise, this is Mick from up at Cairns. I popped in to get the bits and pieces from his house. 3-week growth. You know I'm on holidays when that's happening. So the net...
What you were trying to emulate me.
That's it. Well, I mean, you know, we're wearing the uniform.
Matching shirt.
That's right. Actually, that's a blue shirt. I've just been out there for a while. So playing on the net, I found a lot of fun. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I really enjoyed the camaraderie of it. Bumped into there's some people coming up from Perth. They were a day behind us. I got to meet them at our campsite because we'd zeroed in on the radios, and they came to our campsite because I was there. And yeah, that was great. And I bumped into them 3 or 4 times over the trip. So that was great fun. Let's see, what else have we got? This is the couple from Perth who are up there, so that was great to meet them a few times. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. So that was only a small bit, but I just wanted to give you a taste of the fun we had. Thank you very much to my special guests for coming up tonight. I really